Hey guys, I'll come here to show you how to get started using the Blender2Forge Printer. First off, you'll need to download Blender, so head off to blender.org/download and choose your installer. Once you've got Blender downloaded, just click the installer here and install Blender. Next up, navigate to the GitHub repo of the bot and then to the releases page. Download all of these 4 files, so the bot executable itself, and then these additional files. Now we can get started with making the map in Blender. Use the provided MapStartFile.blend file, and I suggest renaming it to your project that you're going to be making. Open the file. Now to get started, head over to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and install the Tubby's Blender exporter. And here just click the checkbox. Now for the asset library, head over to File Paths, click the plus icon, and select the unzipped file folder and click Add Asset Library. Now if you also want to import custom key bindings, you can go to Keymap, Import, and I will import my key bindings here. And be sure to select it from this menu. Now we can close those down and go down here, bottom left, and select the asset pack. So for this tutorial, we're gonna remake a portion of the Halo Reach map Anchor 9. And for that, we need the map geo itself in Blender. In our Discord server, we have set up this post about getting previous Halo titles map geometry into Blender. For this purpose, we can find the OBJ file for the map we want from this Google Drive link. We'll head over to Halo Reach, Maps, DLC Maps, Anchor 9, and this is the OBJ file for the map, so we'll be downloading this. Now with the map file downloaded, let's import it to Blender. So first I will take the collection where I want the map file to be in, go over to File, Import, wavefront.obj, and head over to where I store the map file, and import. Now, importing OBJs, they will be larger than what you need. So here I've moved it up a little, and let's put a scale object here as a reference. And you'll see that the map is way too big, so we'll have to scale it down. For a 1:1 scale, we can use this value that is found in the helpful post on our Discord here. And we will head over to Blender, select the map file OBJ itself, head over to Scale, drag across these values so they will all be selected, and paste in the value. This will make the map about 3 times as small. So now if we check the scale with a Spartan scale here, it looks a bit too small. And for reach, I've found that using a 0.35 scale is very accurate, and the scaling works for infinite. And to test the scale even more, we can find a doorway item here and check that it matches up pretty well. now let's position the map a little bit better and then get started on the blockout. So delete the stuff I placed. And usually you want to start building your map around the Z800 height. This is for open maps, but since we have a closed map, we'll do a little bit different. So on every canvas, there's this global reflection volume location at 001,000. And when you load into a map with no reflection volumes, this will be the location where the global reflection will be taken. So if your map has no reflections placed, all the reflections that will be shown on every surface will be taken from this spot. So let's say if this is covered in a black box, all of your surfaces will look a little bit dull. And if it's covered in like a red emissive, all of your surfaces will have some red emissive stuff. So in the case of this map, I'll try to build the map around the reflection volume, so the global reflection volume, so we will get a natural reflection inside the map without much difficulty. So I will just position the map around here. Okay, and manually editing the values a little bit. Okay. And in the Blender file, this is the Forge canvas bounds. This is the placeable object bounds, so we are limited to 999 on the coordinate axis. So all of the asset library pack assets that you will place, they will have scale and location restrictions. And they will stop at the ends here, because we cannot place with the infinite Forge menu, we cannot place items further than 999. But in infinite, if you drag the object, you can drag it this far away. So these bounds in the Blender file, they are useful if you want to try to visualize how far you can place objects for like skybox purposes, for example. And then we have the arid halo ring. It's mostly for orientation purposes, so you can see like to integrate the halo ring in your map, skybox for example. We also have the north arrow, so this is north direction, and water flows opposite of this direction, so water flows from north to south in Halo Infinite. So be sure to keep all of these in mind when positioning your map and rotating your map before you get started on the blockout. So now to get started with blocking out the map, let's first set our collection and then look around the map and try to figure out the shapes that you'll be using. So for example, a block here, triangle here, triangle here. Just look around the map and get a feeling for what blocks you'll be using. And let's filter down the asset library. So typing FLO will get you some of the floors, and these are the most essential, at least for me. So I can get pretty far with using just these. And from the floors, I suggest using the floor health B, because it has such a small default size that it's easy to manipulate right off the bat. If you would be using something like floor standard or even floor quadruple size, you'll need to scale these down most of the time before you can start placing them somewhere. So using the floor health B is I recommend doing it. So placing objects on surfaces here, they will take the rotation of the surface. So this is very useful for us. And for the floor health B here, for floor pieces, try to make sure that the Z height is facing the sky. This will help with editing the object in Infinite later on. So I'll just start blocking stuff out here as I go. So I'm currently using the vertex snap. You can head over here to use face project or sometimes edge. And these three are what you will most likely need. So face project, it'll snap to the face of the object, and vertex snap, it'll snap to the vertices here, vertices. There. So I will do a simple block out of this tunnel. And here, let's do a duplication and change my snap to vertex. Here. And down to here. Scale it. And let's check it here. Check where the floor would be. Currently around here. So now we can also snap this piece to here. And be sure to use the middle dots of this scaling thing, otherwise you'll scale it on multiple axes, and that is not always what you want. So for this piece I can use a floor standard A, which is a right triangle. Same here. And holding Control while rotating will have a 5-degree rotation snap, so that is usually pretty useful. Pressing S will let you scale an object on all the axes uniformly at the same aspect ratio. So sometimes that can be useful as well. Since this is a thin object, and it seems like I think this is some grading, but and currently we will probably just end up using a thickness like this. But in the case of something being smaller than 0.5 units in thickness, you can use the ankle cover half size piece. So this piece can scale up 100 times its initial value. So I'll demo it here. We also have the scale restrictions in the Blender file, so I cannot scale it past its scale restriction. So here, 100 times its default value. But it can also scale down 100 times its default value. So we can go really, really small with this piece. So what that means is that if we have a thin surface, we can have a long floor, for example, and have it be really thin. So this is the piece to use for thin surfaces. Let's continue here. if your object goes to negative scale like this, so you'll see here we're getting negative values, you need to try to see that as early as possible, because if you're trying to print an object with negative scale, it won't print correctly. Just keep an eye on that. You don't want that to happen. Let's place a floor here. Then let's duplicate this one side that we created to save some time. So we can duplicate at least these pieces here and then move this one a little. So I'm selecting multiple pieces by holding Shift. And the last piece you select is the origin piece for this group. So I'll select this one. Now Shift D to duplicate. Now snap it to some vertex here. Move it a little. Rotate. Find the spot. Around here. And that's good enough for us now. This is not the right angle, but this is just for demonstration purposes here. Now we'll move this. Then we can duplicate this guy here. To here. Okay. So let's do these staircases here, and then we'll be done for this demo. For this demo, let me just make the staircases simple like this. Even though, well, we can just drag it out a little. Duplicate the same piece. And have it be here. Okay, so this is our block out. So now let's export the block out and get it to infinite. So per object, let's check that the export item is checked, and it should be checked for the default items from the asset library. So it is checked. Now we can go to File, Export, Export Halo Forge Data, and just give it a name and export. Now to be able to print your map into infinite, we'll need to use our printer tool, which relies on Python. So you'll need to install Python on your computer. So head over to python.org and install it on your machine. Now with Python installed, you'll have to install some dependencies for Python for the printer to work. Head over to the readme.md file, and in there you will find a string like this, pip install, and then the dependencies. So now just click enter and it'll install all the required dependencies. When they're done, we can close that, and now we're ready to open up Infinite. So in Infinite, let's go to Forge, and I'm gonna be creating a new map. So load up into the map you want to print in. So now on the map, I'll delete all objects here as they're not required. And then before we start working with the bot, we suggest that you make your game into a state where you can get the most FPS possible to ensure the smooth functioning of the bot. So we will turn off borderless full screen, turn down the resolution as low as you can, turn the graphics settings all the way down, and then set your maximum frame rate to something locked, but something that is above around 250 if you want to print at the max speed of the bot. Turn off VSync and turn off limit inactive frame rate. Now let's load up the bot. With the bot open, I'll change the theme here and select the JSON file. So this is the file that we exported. It shows here we have 17 objects. You can click Show Advanced Settings to see some of our advanced settings, like the Print by Collection feature, Enable Save Interval, Position Only, UGC Scroller, and Index. And here's the speed of the bot. I usually always try to print at the fastest speed, and for this tutorial I'll do that as well. So to get the bot printing, it's as simple as, first of all, flying to some corner of your map and looking away from the print. So this is to ensure that we will get the highest FPS possible. So to get started with the print, it's as simple as just going to the object browser, making sure that all of the folders are collapsed, and you can do this by pressing Tab on the keyboard. So expand all in menu here. So make sure everything's collapsed and hover over the Recents tab, and then just click Start on the bot. Now if you want to stop the bot, you can hold down the F key or move your mouse over to the stop here, but we won't be stopping the bot. So while the bot is printing, you don't want to do anything else on your computer. You don't want to be pressing keys or changing the active window, as if the active window is changed from infinite, the bot will immediately stop. This is to prevent the bot from continuing if infinite crashes, or if it's the inactive window, maybe it would start printing on a text file or opening some channels on your Discord, so you don't want to do that. So here, just waiting. And the print speed you're able to print at, it's highly dependent on your network connection, so your milliseconds here, and then your FPS. So having a low ping to the server and a high FPS will ensure the reliability of the bot. So now we are done with the print, and if you cannot find your map, you can just press Ctrl F, which will focus your camera on the prop that you have selected. And here we have the map. And you can check the scale here in game to see if it's sufficient enough to the original map scale that you wanted. And that's how to use the bot. See ya.